Welcome to A.U.M. Ask Us Marketing. I'm your host, Kalli Fedusenko. I'm the founder of Savvy Advisor Marketing. We are a digital marketing agency developed to build relationships between financial advisors and their target audience using data to create websites, online content, and advertising. We build relationships first and we grow numbers second. Learn more about me and Savvy Advisor Marketing with this QR code. And as always, our episode is today brought to you by the Financial Planning Association. If you're not currently watching on their channels, you should definitely scan one of these two QR codes, learn more about them, join a local chapter of your FPA, and get networking, education, and I think they even have deals with certain companies like me. Okay. Technology. We were just talking about this behind the scenes. It's sometimes feels like out to sabotage us. And it continues to reshape how advisors communicate and market their services. But one thing has not changed. People still want to work with somebody that they trust. In this episode, we are joined by Chris. Let's see if I can get his name right. Mediate. Chris Mediate of Mediate Financial to talk about the role human connection has played in building his client relationships and growing his firm. So in a world of automation, digital tools, and AI-driven content, the advisors who stand out are the ones who know how to connect on a personal level. Not meaning they're not using AI, meaning they know how to connect on a personal level so that it feels like a human. Chris will share what it looks like in his practice and what's working for them. So please join me in welcoming Chris to A.U.M. And remember, ask us your questions in the comments because we will see them and then we'll answer them live. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me, Kalli. It's great to be here. You almost got my last name right on the first try.
I know. As I said it, I was like, wait.
Almost. No, you got it the second time. That was good.
Trying to remember immediate.
Immediate. Yes. Perfect.
Okay, Chris. So I did a little snooping, of course, because that's what I do on my guests, right? And you guys are focused on retirement planning. So I'd love to hear, like, where have you seen the human connection making the biggest difference in attracting and retaining your clients?
Yeah, well, so I think the biggest place to start is just thinking about how big of a goal retirement is, right? You think about that is one of the biggest things that everybody's striving for. I know that when you go into lower generations, I know one of the hot topics right now is talking about like saving for retirement. Like I can't even think about that. Like I'd rather spend that money on me right now, right?
Yeah.
So, right, there's a human element, right? Everybody generationally, right, wants different things, right? So I guess that's one of the things that's been in our DNA, probably from the jump. Just to provide a little bit of background on our firm and how we've kind of cultivated these relationships. Just to start, my dad actually opened up this practice. I think it'll be about 31 years ago now. And that was back before technology, before AI, before all the resources we have right now. And we all know how hard that is to break into this industry as is, even today. But now just imagining how much bigger that was back then. All we had was our relationships, right? Our human connections, right? So at the time for him, his biggest niche was college planning. So helping kids navigate, getting, scholarships, support, that it's a big decision how coaching their parents on, what to plan for, what to be looking at. And then the kind of natural progression, just seeing the way that my dad was able to handle, the kids, handle the relationship with the parents and navigating such a big decision is how it kind of just naturally progressed into the retirement discussion, right?
Yeah.
Earning your trust up front and then just organically working our way to that next, financial milestone that they wanted, needed help guiding. So I would say everything about, our process and our philosophy and the way we like to do things around here stems from that same philosophy that my parents started 30 years ago when they opened this practice up. So again, that's taking these first meetings that we have in our process so seriously, making sure that the discussion is not being driven by I think the thing that everybody wants to talk about instantly, right? Investments, right? The returns. How can I make more money? How do I stop my Uncle Sam from taking all those for lack of a better way of those sexy buzzword things that everybody instantly wants to talk about, but we're there to slow people down. And so we're slowing people down. We're talking about, what matters to them, what their goals are, the people around them, what they have in store for them too, because legacy is so important. All these key topics in isolation are important, but in the grand scheme of somebody's plan, somebody's life, we want to make sure that we're nailing those small, subtle touch points to make sure that we're delivering the best service that we possibly can. So a lot of that, starts from the jump. And I'm giving a very long-winded answer, but from the experience in, right? We want it to feel, not like you're going to a big box financial services firm. We want it, we're independent. We're our own thing. We want it to feel that way from the moment you walk in. And obviously from the start, just seeing our messaging, seeing our faces, seeing us putting ourselves behind these concepts. Again, just from them jumping in, walking through our doors for the very first time, being greeted with a smile, being asked about their day, right? And we're trying to kind of diffuse the situation pretty much from the jump, if you will, because we've had a lot of people coming into our office that, did work with another advisor. And look, not everybody's experience is going to be perfect, but, they just so happen to have not had the best experience, so that, their guard's up, right? Their guard's going to be up, period. So again, it's just making sure that we're recording, paying close attention and being very detail oriented. I think detail orientation is the biggest thing, and that all gets driven from our purpose, what our purpose is, what our intention is that we're trying to apply. And so for us, that intention is the experience, the bottom line experience for our client, and the feeling we're looking to convey at the end of that experience.
Gotcha.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about how you infused in your marketing this sense of the purpose, and making that human connection before they even walk in the door. Like, what are some of the things that you're doing as a firm to make somebody comfortable?
Yeah, understood. So again, I kind of mentioned from the messaging perspective. But then I talk about detail orientation. Then I'm thinking about our branding, right? That's like the first big thing for me that always jumps is we think about the color, something as simple as the color of blue. We've seen is something that people tend to associate that with calm or steady or safety, right? So just from the jump, right? Just the colors, we're hoping hook you a little bit, right? But that's just a soft touch at the end of the day. But the messaging of just focusing on your dream, right? Your dream, your goal, your purpose. That's the biggest thing in all of our messaging, putting things clearly, right? We use a lot of the same buzzwords in just about everything that we do from a messaging standpoint, from our Facebook ads, from our radio shows, from the newsletters we send out to clients. It's all consistent messaging because we're trying to create, like I said, we're trying to create an experience. We're trying to create a feeling at the end of the tunnel, right? So that is where we start to kind of incorporate, right? The things that matter to them, like what our pain points are and where we could add value to those pain points is often what we want to try to cut through. Okay. Because I think there's numbers, right? There's red lines, green lines in the stock market, right? But there's actual real people at the end of these things, at the bottom line of all of this. And that's what I think it's always important to remember, because look, we're all, we all are business owners. We're all entrepreneurs. We're all trying to, everybody wants to make money to keep ourselves afloat, right? But, it's always, it can be easy in that process, in that endeavor, to forget about the human, element, that we are trying to help people towards a greater goal. And that was one of the things that really hooked me from the start to getting involved in this business, was that bottom line feeling, of relief. That's the biggest thing. Clarity, peace, so we're taking their problems and we're focusing on those problems and we're solving those problems first and foremost, because that's our fiduciary responsibility, right? So again, that's something that spans everywhere and everything.
I noticed some of the stuff that you share. Well, one, you've been on the news a few times. So
thank you for the shout.
getting your face on there, and also that establishing the credibility of, hey, I know what I'm talking about. Look, I've been interviewed on the news, right? But I also noticed that you highlight some, I think they're charities.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about that, and how have you been able to connect with people through that?
Yeah. So that's a great observation. So that is one of our things. So if you look at our website, one of our biggest pedestals is community, community outreach, community involvement. So interestingly enough, we talk about, our process. And I think many people have varying processes or similar processes to, like, a bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket 3. And so we've called it our 4th bucket because, right, not only do we want to help people be more intentional with their money to help their own lives, but how can we maybe start, encouraging people to be more generous with their money, to fill their 4th bucket. And it's not to make anybody do anything. It's more so just giving them kind of a North Star to kind of follow, in the same way that we gave them a North Star to follow for their plan, their own plan.
Right.
And so why that is such a big pedestal to us is it kind of stems from my mom, first and foremost. My mom is kind of our, she's always been the community ambassador, I guess you would say, for us. She's always been very big about giving back to our community. And so she's helped instill that DNA into our own company, which, again, at a baseline level, all our intention was, again, to help encourage some good with our clients, using our platform positively, to encourage our clients, but to also take that forward role in our community to encourage other local businesses, whether it's financial advisor, not, whatever, just encouraging other local businesses and other community members, right, to make this place a little bit better than how we found it. All of us, encouraging all of us to use that platform positively. So I think what's been interesting about that is that it has had the secondary effect of putting us in touch with some really good people, making some really good connections in our environment, or in our community, that has helped open up other doors for our business, right? It's such an easy, simple thing to encourage your clients to bring, like, a friend or a guest to a volunteering thing that our team members are taking the time to go do. And that, again, we talk about breaking down walls. Man, what a good way to break down a wall and start developing a bit of a connection, putting a little bit more of a face behind that messaging, behind that branding. And so, again, that's helped lead to new business. And that's just a secondary effect. That was not our goal going into doing stuff like that. But I think making it an emphasis has been really big, to be honest with you, really big in adding another personality trait to our brand. Because I always think about our brand as a living organic being, right? And our brand as a living organic being is generous, right? It wants to encourage people to go for something bigger than themselves, so that's been big. And obviously, people like seeing that in our community. And for years, until I got here, we never wanted to be public about that stuff. And I think there's a lot of power in not wanting to be public about that stuff, because that's not why you do it. But I think it does have a compounding effect in a lot of different ways. There's no downside to being, generous or a good steward or a good community member.
Something you said, and I want to highlight that because I've worked with, a lot of advisors, and I think that comes up. I think it can be really challenging when you're the one making the content, if it's about yourself. And so that's where, like you said, they didn't do it until you came in, you don't need, but it really helps to have a third party who can do it for you, because I totally, even as a business owner myself, I get it. It feels uncomfortable to be like, look at me, look what I'm doing.
No, seriously, it's rough. I mean, like you said, in any medium or any context, it's weird. Like I'm the social media manager, so I also have to oversee our content, what gets posted and what doesn't. And if it's something that has anything to do with me, I'm like, can somebody else write this caption? I can't write, I'm not going to do this, So I see where it comes from, but that is what I'm here for. So it's been good. It's been a nice, value add for our clients, I know. And it's just had a nice compounding effect for us.
And I'll say any client that either recognition or giving back, anytime we highlight that, it gets so much engagement from the audience. Like, people want to see that.
They
So
do.
I would
They
say
do.
for an advisor who's struggling, find a third party to help you because it'll be worth it.
Yes, absolutely.
I do want to ask, because you have on your link tree, which for anyone who is with us right now, you can scan the QR code. If you listen to this later, I'll put it in our show notes. But you have this link tree and you have lots of platforms. You have a radio channel, a podcast, a book, well, I'm not sure what the toolkit is. I'm guessing a downloadable.
That's a call to action. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then all the social media platforms.
Yes.
So that's a lot to manage. My question is, which one do you feel like one of them is working better than another, or do you feel like this one of them is worth more of your investment of time because you're seeing a better payoff? Have you seen that your audience is in a specific area?
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Okay.
So I'm going to address this. I'll give you some background context because I think that's important. I'm going to give you a long-winded answer to probably a fairly simple question. But when we were doing our marketing, we were very much, like pre-COVID, very much, I would say, a one-trick pony. That was because we didn't have a dedicated marketer in our business. I was still in school. I was only helping in the summers whenever I could, spot up somewhat throughout the year. We did not have any other form of marketing available. Like you just mentioned, all those things that we have now. And so what happened with COVID was, just to put it plainly, everybody knows what happened, right? We can have seminars, and that was our big calling card, was our seminars, our workshops, our, getting out in front of these people and actually letting them see us that way. And then COVID happened, and what did we have to do? We had to find a way to reach these people. And so one of the best ways that, we wanted to tackle that, especially since I came on, we had somebody that could dedicate their time and their focus and their energy to it. And so we wanted to basically reach people where they were at, which is in their living rooms. So TV was the first domino that I would say totally took off for us locally.
Like commercials?
Yeah, so they're paid placements. And actually we keep kind of doubling down on that since our first time that we did it. That's by far been our biggest funnel, at least recently.
I would not have expected that.
I know. Yeah. So it's none of the ones that are like labeled, like actually listed on the link tree. So what we view as what the link tree, what's been great is, again, we're expanding different avenues for people to find us. So it's not just a mailer. It's not just a social media ad. It's not all these things in isolation. It's all these things working together to move somebody down our funnel. So TV was our biggest, and it's our most productive funnel by far right now. And it was not like that when we started it. I would say our numbers when we were drawing in leads were above the average, I would say, in terms of what they usually expect in the first 2 years. And then we've really, in the last 3 years, seen the account size start to go up. So not just are we, list building, we're actually seeing the return on our investment. And it took about 2 years probably for us to kind of see that. So that was what was funny, was my first year, coming on, we had a decent year. We had pretty much the same year. So, because our investments, we were still waiting for those to kind of bear fruit. That's the thing. You have to have patience when you're going to commit to marketing.
Preach it.
Yeah, you do. You have to commit to it. You have to be intentional. And I use this, before, because I know there's a lot of financial advisors on the call today. I've used this analogy kind of similarly. Whenever you're building a strategy for your client, an investment strategy, right? You're coaching them on risk tolerance. You're coaching them on what it is, why they're buying it, what you're expecting the long-term outlook to be, whatever the case is, that you're coaching them on why they're buying it. And what tends to happen, especially when market turbulence starts to happen, we see this especially, they start to question the investment, right? They're like, wait, hey, what's going on here? They panic, and then they want to maybe hit the eject button. But what do? You coach them, right? You talk them through it.
Market.
Walk them off the ledge, right?
You don't lose money until you leave.
Exactly, right? But that's what you do. And so I encourage you that if you're somebody that hates the idea of investing in marketing, that when you start doing those investments, that you push through, right? You just stay patient. You just stay intentional to the fundamental reason that you're doing it, right? And then constantly look for improvement, because that's where we saw the biggest shift in our marketing was my dad's willingness to invest in these things and actually I would be nowhere right now if he did not have the faith and trust in me to get, this done and done the way it is. So TV's been our biggest thing.
And I want to highlight that again, 2 years, he had to invest for 2 years before seeing that payoff. And well, now I guess it's increasing in the payoff.
Yeah. That's the other thing, compounding effects. We talk about compounding effects. That's been one of the biggest things. And so TV was our first domino. Then we started going more into digital, which has been great. Just having that additional branding, Facebook ads mainly, Instagram ads too, a little bit here and there. Just having that additional branding, additional call to action, and additional avenue to, again, list build too. Because then that's the other big element of our business is the email drip, right? Is all these funnels that we have active, radio, podcasting, TV, digital, they all have referrals. Referrals are still a driving force of our business, but TV, like I said, it's really taken off. So that's required a better follow-up process. That was something else that we needed to instill in our marketing matrix was how do we follow up? How do we continue to drip on this list so that we can continue siphoning, like I said, kind of, I guess, siphoning money out of it, trying to find people that might have opportunities to either say they're replacing an insurance policy, say Social Security has been on their mind lately. So we're sending them targeted emails, right? Even emails are a method of, like I said, just staying top of mind. Branding. Consistency is big. And that's where the follow-up process becomes so huge when you're building out these different, funnels.
100%. And I'm really glad you brought that up because this is where I was going next. So on A.U.M, Ask Us Marketing, we usually have on experts or marketing professionals, not to say that you're not, but I would say you're an advisor. So this year we've been trying to make an effort in getting advisors who have had some sort of success in marketing to talk about that. And you were nominated by Snappy Kraken. And so I was going to ask you about their platform and how are you using it, which you just set it up perfectly.
I wonder how. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't know that's where we were going with it, but I figured it'd be a good segue. I just want to start by saying, big shout out to them. And there's great people that work over at that company. And obviously this was a big time opportunity. And I could not thank them enough for it. But also I can't thank them enough again for building out this platform in an easy, accessible way for their Snappy, the automation engine. And so the biggest thing that I would say again with how huge that's been is we've been able to customize. Obviously, we do our Monday newsletter. So our big thing. Wait, is this what you asked? I'm sorry. Let me.
No, you're good.
Okay. So our biggest thing is how we would use it, right? Or how we've been using it is, again, it's been huge in our follow-up process, but it's also been huge in how we've delivered that human connection. So every Monday, our clients receive a newsletter from my dad. I kind of might have a hand in that, how that, gets edited and sent out. Right. So, obviously it's important that, our boss, our founder, the guy that helped cultivate all these relationships, that people are hearing from him. Big time. So there's that, and in it, it's not even focused on any type of advisor marketing or anything like that. So obviously we like to include in those emails links to our radio show. Obviously we'll do special announcements. And if we're doing any type of food drive, volunteering opportunity, right? If there was some type of news happening around our office or happening in we'll announce it. He'll talk about it. There will be something focused that he's talking about that has nothing to do with, finance. And that's because we think it's important that people see us as more than just their financial advisors. People see us as their friends, as family members. So kind of going back to our earlier topic and what we were talking about, right? We talk about how, if somebody's having a kid, we're making sure that we're sending them something. If somebody's lost a parent, a brother, a sister, we send them wind chimes. There's all these little human touches that we try to add in. So this Monday newsletter is no different, in my opinion. Just this past week, it was Easter. And so my dad was talking a little bit about the homily he heard and mass the previous day. And that resonates with people. That's especially when you're sharing something with them like, hey, I'm more than just a money guy. Like, I'm all about life. I'm about the
Mm-hmm.
bottom line for you guys too, just as much. And I think that's where that's been huge. Gotten a lot of positive feedback from clients. Obviously, just they'll be responding to it like, oh, hey, congratulations, Christopher, for this award. Da 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 da. Or
Yeah.
it's just
Yes.
nice having that like nice extra touch, knowing that you're accessible. Because what do
Yep.
we hear so often? We've had so many people like, I haven't even heard from my financial advisor in 2 years. And that's just to perform a basic function of what
Right.
you're hiring them to do, right?
Right.
Is to at least meet with them once a year. And
Yeah.
so our competitive positioning is simple. Like, we're going to reach out to you every week. You're going to be bothered maybe by how much you hear from your advisor. In which case, obviously, people have the option to unsubscribe from what they want, and we
Sure.
them, but they can hear
And are
from us as
you
much as they want.
for as far as like following up with the leads from TV or the radio show, are you using the newsletter, or are you also using some of the funnels that Snappy has set up?
Yeah, so there's a couple. So the Monday newsletter we reserve kind of for our clients,
Okay.
just to help. That's kind of like a nurturing piece, like I said, just so our clients can see that. And you want to have some type of a client experience where it's exclusive to them. Like, not everybody should be getting the same stuff. I think you have a different goal for each communication avenue that you want to take. So obviously with kind of like leads and those those leads that come in from TV, we do have, they do go into an automatic campaign that our team, that our digital team kind of helped us create. Shout out to them. And it's fantastic. Like I said, it's that call to action, that Clearview retirement toolkit. So that's another big thing, is having a strong anchor to guide those leads in. And then again, having that follow up, making sure, hey, have you read it? Hey, like, did this, tickle your fancy? Do you want to call us about it? Right. And then from there, obviously, if they don't end up scheduling an appointment, all's not lost, right? They're still on your list. You still have their contact info. You can kind of get a basis of what maybe they were interested in learning more about based on their behaviors in your emails. So for instance, we might throw our visual insight newsletter in there too, so that this is the more targeted, more educational on a focused financial subject. And then depending on if we get any form submissions, AKA they fill out a landing page or, text this number or that number, however they're getting into our funnel, it's important that we're paying attention to what they're paying attention to. Which, if they're interested in taxes, right, and they took action, we want to make sure we're dragging them into a group. I shouldn't have said that word. Dragging and dropping them into a group. And then pushing content to them that's kind of related to that.
Relevant.
We want to keep pushing on that pain point, not to hurt them, but to get them thinking like, hey, I might need to do something about this.
Right.
I haven't thought about it in this way. And so that's what's nice about Snappy Kraken, is obviously they have that library built out for you where, you don't have to edit every single piece, because their copyright team is so good. But you can, like I said, scrub it against AI. You can edit it yourself. I do a little bit of both, just to differentiate the messaging, and so that we're not sending them static content that maybe the other advisor who might be using a similar platform is also using. Then it kind of takes away from the authenticity. So that's something to keep in mind and kind of pay attention to, for sure.
Yes, love that. My firm is all about customization for that very reason. And I've actually done a seminar, and I showed, being someone who works with advisors, I sign up for multiple email lists. And so I was showing the same day, within an hour, I got the same exact email from 2 advisors. The only difference was their logo. And even the logo was pretty similar. It's like, if your goal is to stand out, maybe don't do the exact same thing.
Exactly. Actually stand out. Be intentional. Right. But I totally get it. So
this has been a great conversation. And just to wrap it up, what would you say for advisors who are looking for a way to connect more deeply with an audience? What is one piece of advice that you want them to walk away from this with?
So I'm actually going to steal something, and I'm probably going to butcher it because it actually just came to my mind now. But if anybody is familiar with Virgil Abloh, he was the creative director at, I think, Louis Vuitton.
Mm.
And he was, I don't know anything about him, look him up. But there was a video that he did where he was basically talking about, just post to nobody. It's okay to have like your little niche audience, right? And just keep focusing on that audience and trying to build that audience one person at a time is kind of what I got from it. Like, it's okay. Just post to nobody if you have to. It's just about building that consistency, constantly reaffirming that messaging, that authenticity. And I would say also this too, because this also kind of segues off. Look at AI and how everybody can now sound like a professional copywriter, right? Everybody can sound however they want to sound, right? They're not sounding like them though. Okay?
Right.
It's okay if you're not up to date on all the latest AI tools or using it all the time in every single thing you do. I actually think it's okay if you have a grammatical error every now and then in something you wrote. It's okay if something you produced is not perfect or doesn't look polished. I think right now that's one of the, and this isn't data driven, what I'm telling you, right? This is just mentally how I'm viewing it as a fellow consumer is, I see those kinds of little things where, it shows me there was a human on the other side of that. I think anytime you can find that and narrow in on that and really drive it home to somebody, I think it's huge, right? Don't overthink it. It's okay if you're not Dave Ramsey. It's okay if you're not Caleb Hammer. It's okay. Focus on you, run your own race. And that's just what I would say.
Great advice.
Thank you.
I love that advice. No comparisons. Well, within reason.
Within reason, right? Yeah. Everything's always within reason. Or depends on the context, right? So always keep that in mind.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today and, sharing what you guys are doing and where you've seen success. I know our audience appreciates it and I appreciate it. So thanks for joining us today.
Kalli, thank you so much for having me. This was great. Always love talking shop.
Absolutely. And then for those of you who are joining, maybe you had a question and you didn't feel comfortable asking it in the public setting where everyone can see it. Feel free, scan this QR code. We can talk individually. Now, if it was a specific question for Chris, I'll have to connect you because I won't know the answer. But if it's some general marketing question, I would be more than happy to walk through it with you. And then make sure you join us next week. We're going to continue our series on human connection, and we will be talking to Nicole Noonan. So join us noon Central